the idle animation, the walk cycle. It took a few minutes to make the animation a bit better. It's still trash, but and now we are onto our flat map. Oh my god! So I added a few objects from the game assets onto the map. Hello everyone, I'm so happy to have you here. Today I will present to you everything that you need to know to mod the game, how to get started and register new maps, mobs and items, and even register fully custom mechanics into the game. I will even teach you how to become fully independent from all of my tutorials and how to go beyond what you saw here. I really hope that you will enjoy this course, that it will be useful to someone and that something good comes out of it. And even if that's not the case, then at least I will die with no regrets. Thank you so much and good luck. Okay, so before we start modding anything, we're going to have to set up our modding environment. But before we do that, I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about content warning modding, what you should expect from this tutorial, what's going to happen. So first of all, this tutorial is not going to be 100% follow along. So I already have a working setup on my computer, so I don't really want to destroy everything by reinstalling Blender, VSCode, etc. And especially you're going to have to install Dotnet without me, which is the C# compiler. And so in the course of this tutorial, maybe you're going to run into issues that I will not have mentioned, at which point you will have two choices. Okay, three choices actually. Either you give up, or you can leave a comment down below and I will answer, or you can just DM me on Discord. I don't like generative AI, but I think it's very good to experiment with new projects and learn new things. But even with my help and the AI and everything, I'm sorry to say, but maybe it will take 1 hour or two just to get started. Modding the game, even though I find it incredibly satisfying and exciting, you're going to need a lot of patience. Okay, this is Enzo from the future. After filming and editing this video, I will give you a few tips on how to consume this course. I realize now that it's not always clear if you need to follow along, or if it's optional, or if you just have to listen to something that I'm saying. So in the bottom of the video, I will put a tag indicating if you need to follow along or not. Also, I would like to warn you in advance that you will not have to follow along for the setup of the map, mob and item that we will do inside of Blender and Unity. And that is because all of those example maps, mobs and items will be provided in the examples inside of the content warning SDK that you will download in the description. But you should try to look at the setup of making the map, mob and item, because if you need to do that at some point, you will need to understand the process. The description of the video will be your best friend here, because you will find all of the download links for all of the tools that you need to download. And at a certain point, it's possible that you will get lost in this huge course in what you need to do to make a mob, what you need to verify. And so I put a huge checklist of everything that you will have to do and verify to get started. For each point that you will need to verify or check, you will see the time code in the video. And so if you get lost, please look at the description. And in fact, you should stop the video right now to pause it and look at the video right now to see everything that I provided for you. And once you have done that, you can get started. And I wish you the best of luck in modding the game. Thank you for considering modding the game. We really need you right now. So yeah, lots of love, my friend. All of that being said, let's get started. So first, you're going to want to have Blender installed, which is basically the best way to make 3D assets, animations, and game-ready assets in general. Then you will have to install Unity Hub, which is the Unity project's launcher. You will not have to pay for anything. Unity is free for our purposes, I think. And also you will need to install an IDE, which is a software that will help you develop your mod, modify the code, explore the vanilla code, and build the projects, etc, etc. So in this tutorial I will use Visual Studio Code, but honestly you can use anything that you want. There are a lot of IDEs out there. This is the solution that I use, so if you are not an experienced software engineer and you just want to follow along, then I suggest you install Visual Studio Code. When you have those three softwares installed, we're going to forget about them for now and we will move on to utilitarian software that you will need to mod the game. So the most important software among all of them is definitely AssetRipper. What AssetRipper does is it allows you to take the game files and convert them back into a mostly functional Unity project that you can open and explore. And this is incredibly valuable to understanding the game code, reverse engineering the game, reusing game code and game assets, visualizing what you're doing, etc. etc. Actually, I know that Riso, which is probably the best modder in the game, actually didn't use AssetRipper for the longest time before I came into contact with him. But he's just kind of crazy, okay? Unless you are a Riso, you should probably just listen to what I'm saying and install AssetRipper. And actually, it's worth it that I open it right now to show you how to make the game into a Unity project. So you will open it, it's going to open a browser window somewhere. You'll click on Open Folder. Then you're going to go on Steam, Collection, or Library, Properties, Installed Files, Explore. Take the installation path of Content Warning, go back to AssetRipper and paste it here, click on Content Warning Data and select the folder. Then you will see View Loaded Files. Maybe it's going to load for a while. I don't know how it was so fast here. Then you will go to Export All Files. You will select a folder, which is the folder in which the Unity project is going to be extracted to. I'm going to call it something. Select, and then you will click on Export Unity Project. Then it's going to load for a while, but basically you're done. You have successfully exported the game into a Unity project, and we will open it later. Then you're going to want to go to Community, Workshop, Content Warning, and search for Atlas, which is basically a hacked client that will allow you to become invincible, infinite stamina, battery, etc, etc, and even spawn mobs, which I find to be incredibly valuable to test your mod. After that, you should definitely install Bepinex. Bepinex is a mod loading framework, but actually we don't care about that. We're just going to use it to pop the in-game console when we launch the game. And having the in-game logs when launching Content Warning is going to be very important to debug some things, because if our mod logs errors, then we want to know about that. And to install Bepinex, all you have to do is go to this link that I'm going to put in the description. You're going to download this file, Bepinex Win x64. Then you're going to go to your installation folder at the same level as your Content Warning data. Put the zip here and extract it. And I think there should be a Bepinex folder, and so it's going to extract a Bepinex folder here. You're going to launch the game once. You're going to close it, and when you come back here, you're going to have a few folders, and especially you're going to go to config, Bepinex config, edit in Notepad, and you're going to go here, login.console, and you're going to change enable to true. And now when you launch the game, you will see the game logs. Now you will also want to install UnityExplorer. I will put the link in the description as well, and you will download okay, I don't remember which one it is actually, I will check. So it looks like you have to download UnityExplorer.bie5 mono, which is this one. Extract it, and in the Bepinex folder plugins, you need to have this setup. I think this folder is generated after you launch the game for the first time. Maybe I'm wrong. So I'm going to quickly show you what UnityExplorer does. So as you can see, UnityExplorer is a way to explore and modify the in-game objects at runtime, which is incredibly useful because maybe you will see that one of your modded objects is not working correctly, or maybe you want to understand how a vanilla object works, which components that it has, the object hierarchy. And the UnityExplorer allows you to do all of that. And then finally, I'm going to talk to you about Asset Studio. You may not need it ever, but you should be aware that it exists. So basically what Asset Studio does is it allows you to extract game objects into FBX. So FBX is a format that Blender can understand. And so imagine if you needed to have the big slap model or the diving bell model inside of Blender, then using Asset Studio would be very useful, because this is the only way to get FBX files out of the vanilla assets. And also what I find that it does is that sometimes AssetRipper will not be able to extract all of the game assets like audio clips, at which point you may be able to get them from Asset Studio. And to use it, you have to download it. I will leave the link in the description as well. You need to download this one, extract it, then you will have this. So let me just show you quickly how to use Asset Studio. If you're not interested, then you can just skip forward. You're going to open this load folder. You're going to find your content warning installation folder once again, paste it here and select content warning data. Now here comes the very painful part. You will get 1 million error messages which you are going to skip repeatedly by pressing enter or space. So yeah, I'm not going to do that, but trust me, you can get all of the game assets through this software. And so I think now that we are done exploring all of the auxiliary software to help you mod, so let's do a quick recap. When you launch the game at that point, you should have a few things. So I launched the game, it's loading, and now I get the console because Bepinex is installed and configured correctly. So when I launch the game, you will see all of those windows pop up. That's UnityExplorer. I'm going to close it for now and press F7. And actually, I think I forgot to install Atlas, so I'm going to do it real quick. Okay, so now when I launch the game, I see this modded menu, which allows me to have infinite stamina, oxygen, etc. I'm going to close it by pressing M. So now, as we saw, everything is set up correctly, and when we launch the game, we have all the tools that we need. Now I would like to show you how to fix the Unity project that AssetRipper gave us. So I'm really grateful for this tool to exist, but it doesn't work 100%, and you will have to tweak things a lot to fix it. So you're going to go to Projects in Unity Hub, and click Add Project from Disk. And you're going to go to Exported Project, and yeah, actually this is it, Exported Project. So actually Unity is telling me that I'm missing the current game version. So this doesn't really matter, honestly. I'm just going to pick a version that's close. It's like one patch away or something. So yeah, I will say continue. But this is going to take a while. Okay, so now the Unity project from AssetRipper has opened, and you're gonna notice that not only do we see nothing on the scene, we also have a few hundreds of compile errors, so we're going to fix all of that. So there are a lot of things to fix on this Unity project. I'm not gonna lie to you, this is gonna take a while, but hopefully I can point you in the right direction to do everything. So most of the errors that you see here are because of duplicate DLLs and missing dependencies. So first we're going to fix the duplicate dependencies. Please note that this process can change across game versions with updates. And so right now this process works for the last update dating the 30th of April. But please keep in mind that this can change over time. So let's go into plugins and show in Explorer. For the game version that I just showed you, so after looking at all of the errors that I saw here and fixing them and getting new errors and fixing them, I know that the DLLs that you need to remove are these ones. So you're going to have to remove bursts, burst unsafe and collections with the associated meta files. You will have to remove mathematics. All of the DLLs related to rendering, so all of these. You'll have to remove TextMesh Pro, Unity Engine UI, and I think that's it. So let's remove all of them. Now the project is going to recompile, and hopefully we see less errors than before. Okay, so we are still getting a few errors, but that's because we are missing a dependency. I'm going to go into Unity registry and look for universal rendering pipeline. I'm gonna install it. There is something that you should know. When we are going to make maps, you need to install the AI navigation package from the Unity package manager. And that is because if you don't do it, you will have issues in baking the nav mesh of the maps. You will see all of that later. Okay, so now that URP is installed, I think we don't have any compile errors anymore, yeah? And so we're going to open the surface scene by double-clicking to see if we got some basic rendering going. Okay, so as expected, because this is the 10th time of filming this video, we got the surface scene going, but we are missing some shaders. So now to fix this, we have to do a few things. We have to go to create, rendering, and then create a URP asset with universal renderer. We don't have to change anything. Then we go to create again, rendering, and create a URP universal renderer. Then we'll go to edit, project settings. We will go to graphics, set the render pipeline asset to the one we just created. It should be the only one. And then we will go to quality and we will select the render pipeline asset here. Okay, great. So nothing much has changed, but that's completely normal. Now we're going to have to close the project. That's very important. And then we will find the official shaders that were shared by the developers. I will put the link in the description. And then we'll go to code, download zip. So I have done that already. Then you will go to the zip content. You will copy all of those shaders. Then you will go to the AssetRipper project, show in Explorer. Go to assets, shader. And then you will copy everything here. It's gonna say that you will have to replace some files. You will say yes. But actually you need to know that some shader names are inconsistent. So for example, the official shader name is display screen without a space, and the AssetRipper one is display screen with a space. And we're going to delete this one because this is the simplified AssetRipper one that it was unable to extract. I'm gonna delete it. Then I'm gonna rename the file of the official shader so that it aligns with the shader.meta file. So here it's exactly the same. And I think there is only one other instance of shader that have inconsistent name. Yeah, this is the one, world optimized. So this is the official one and this is the AssetRipper one. I know it's because of the modified, last modified date. So I will delete that one. I'll copy the name first actually. Delete. Then I take this one and I modify the name. So that's so that now it's exactly the same. And now we should have fixed the shaders partly, because we'll have to do something else to fix the shaders completely. So I'm gonna reopen the project. Okay, so now as you can see, we loaded into the scene and most of the shaders are fixed. So this is very good news. Unfortunately, that's not the case for all of them. We're going to look at the materials list. Yeah, so maybe half of the materials are working correctly. And that's because the remaining materials have compile errors. So let's look at it. For example, the world shader has compile errors. And if we look at it, we see that there is a redefinition of something. And the fix for that is pretty simple, and the good news is that we can fix all of the shaders at once actually. So we're going to go to the Unity project folder. We will see that we have the shader folder here. We're going to open a terminal. Then if you have VSCode installed, you should be able to do code shader, tab to autocomplete, and then press enter. So basically what this will do is open all of the shaders into VS Code, and as we saw before, the error is always the same between all of the shaders, is that we are redefining camera depth, texture, texel size or something, and the solution for that is to search for texel, and we see all of those lines are causing the problem. So we will copy it, we'll put it here. And so all of them are selected. Then we're going to click on replace all with an empty replacement. So this is just going to effectively remove the lines that are causing the compile errors. Okay, and now we go back here and we should see that the shaders are fixed mostly. So yeah, the window material was bugged and now it looks like it's working correctly. And we can convince ourselves of that by looking at the materials list, and we should not have any weird purple materials. So yeah, I think everything is good now. And the good news is the AssetRipper is fixed right now for me. Okay, maybe a few things are weird. So for example, to fix the grass, I know that you need to look at the material, do this, and you will replace the shader. So this is surface terrain no calling, and I find that surface terrain works actually, but not the others. So yeah, you can, if you want a good rendering of the AssetRipper project, you will have to do some things. It doesn't really matter because in any case you will not be able to launch the game. That's very unrealistic. We are probably never going to be able to do that. And so now what we accomplished is that we can look at the game, and in particular we can look at the game objects. So for example, look at this. This is the reporter mic prefab, and we can just look at it and explore the hierarchy of the item, how it works, how every script works together to make the item functional in the game. You can see that it's all black, but that's because the shaders are still not working correctly, if you can believe it. So if we look at the apple artifact from the surface, we can see that the material uses the nice shader, and so that allows us to see it inside of the Unity editor. Something very interesting also is to look at the mobs. So for example, I can look for flicker. I'm going to find the flicker prefab, and I can see all of the components that the mob uses. And so that will allow us essentially to create our own mobs. Even though it's very difficult, I'm not gonna lie. It's a very complicated process. Also, if we try to go into the mine scene, which is the map from the old world, we'll see that it's very difficult to understand things because there are no light sources and the material is very dark. So what we can do to fix that is look at the emerald material and modify it a bit so that we change the emis value. And so that's going to make it a lot brighter. You will see some green artifacts here. I have absolutely no idea how to fix that. I have tried for several hours, but I could never do it. So yeah, you can explore the maps, the items, and the mobs. So we will have to come back to the Unity project, not just for reverse engineering purposes, but also to make our prefabs. But now I'm going to ditch this project because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to open my project that I use for all of my mods. Just keep in mind that it's a very difficult process to get a mostly working Unity project. So once you have one, you should probably use it for all of your mods, and you should keep it like it's the most precious thing that you have, okay? So yeah, this is the Unity project that I will use when we are going to make custom maps, mobs, and items. So congratulations, we have completed step 2 of the environment setup. If you can get all of these things working and install all of this, you have done most of the heavy lifting. Fixing the Unity project is actually the most painful part, by very, very far. And now all we have to do is set up the development environment that will allow us to build mods. First, you're going to need to install Dotnet. It's pretty easy, you just need to look for a Dotnet SDK. I recommend that you just install version 8. And now that you did that, you're going to download our content warning modding SDK, which is basically a fancy word to say that it's a folder that you download and it has a basic project setup and all of the tools that you need. So here is a quick tutorial on how to download the CW SDK and open it inside of VSCode. Click here and click download zip. So I just took the zip that I downloaded, I extracted it onto my desktop. Then you can just open VSCode, go to File, Open Folder, and then select the SDK folder so that you see this, and then select it. But the important thing here is that you have this SDK open inside of VSCode, and if you type .NET --version, you see something like this, and you don't get an error. So if you see an error here when you do that, something is wrong with your development environment, and many things can go wrong. For example, maybe you need to reboot your computer, or maybe you need to update your path environment variable. Basically what the path environment variable is, it's a list of directories where Windows is going to look into when you try to execute commands. So if we do that and we say that .NET is not recognized, it probably means that .NET is not inside of the path environment variable. And now that you have verified your .NET installation, you're going to verify that this SDK compiles correctly. It should be the case, and if it's not, then you will have to identify the issue. So I will try it right now. I will do .NET build example.mod.csproj, and then you will see that I will not have any compile errors. I do get some warnings, but it's fine. And so honestly, there is more probability that this doesn't work for you on the first try, but that's okay. You're going to have to adjust a few things. I can't really say what the problem is for you. If it doesn't compile, you will have to look at the error message. But I will just try to make you aware that some things need to be set up properly. So for example, this in the csproj needs to be the installation path of content warning. Install files, explore, copy this, and you will paste it. So mine is already set correctly. And because we just did that, it's going to be able to find all of the DLL dependencies inside of the game files. And also there is one more thing. This SDK uses the DB's content API, which is a mod that we have made to make modding a lot easier to register items, maps, and mobs. So yeah, you can look for it in the workshop, you can install it, and then you will have to go to directory.build.props, and you will have to change that path so that it points towards the DB's content API DLL. And so to find it, you can go to collections, properties, install path. You can go to Steam Apps, workshop, content, here, and then you can try to find it. So yeah, here it is. You can copy that path and then put it here. So you will notice that I don't use that path, and that's because I don't need to use it. Because since I made that API, I do have the DB's content API compiled on my computer. But if you do this, it should work. So I'm going to try for a bit. So yeah, even though I refreshed all of the dependencies, it looks like it's still working correctly. And if after doing all of that, your development environment still does not work, then honestly, there may be something that I didn't think of because I did not set up everything from scratch. I'm going to change a few things about the development environment. So first I'm going to install a few extensions. I'm going to create a profile actually, because it's usually a good idea to separate your development profile so that you don't install all the extensions and the preferences onto a single profile. Because once you start putting all of your extensions and programming language onto one profile, it will drastically reduce the performance of your IDE. So I'm just going to create a content warning profile. I'm going to go to File, Preferences, and switch to this profile. Then in the extension store, I will install C#. Also, I'm just going to change one parameter, which is going to make my life easier. So do Ctrl-Shift-P, then type JSON, and you should find Open User Settings, format on Save, and I will set it to True. Then I will do Ctrl-P, format document with C#. And so what this does is every time I save a file, it's going to indent everything, and it's just going to make the code cleaner. So at this point, if everything works for you, you are mostly set up to start making mods for the game. And so that's what we will do in the next steps. Okay, let's take a quick look at how you will import the Unity CW SDK inside of Unity. So inside of VSCode, you can see that there is a folder named Unity CW SDK. I will click on it and do Reveal in Explorer. Then I will copy it. After that, I will go into my Unity project and click on Assets and click on Show in Explorer. I will go inside of the Assets folder and then I will copy the folder here. Here it is. Now if I go back into the project, I should see a folder called Unity CW SDK. The first thing that you should do is find the folder named put my content in editor folder. You will open it and then take this asset bundles building script and put it in the editor folder. And because you just did that, now you're able to assign asset bundles to game objects, then go to assets and build asset bundles. We're going to do that later. And to verify that everything is correct, then I will go inside of examples. I will click on the scene. Look at what I see. So yeah, the map looks correct. The gun looks correct. The cube looks correct. Okay, this is Enzo from the future once again. It appears that I was wrong and the item prefabs are actually broken. But to fix them it's pretty simple. You need to look for north, then find the north gun prefab. You will copy the hand R object, then go back to the gun prefab, delete this one, then paste the one from the north gun. You will set all of these coordinates to 0 to bring the hand back, and then you can try to move the hand so that it looks like the person is holding the gun. I will press Ctrl S to save the prefab, then I will go to test item and do the exact same thing. And this is how it looks like for the cube, and the default character has some issues unfortunately. And we will have to fix the character before we can do anything. Let's find the zombie prefab, go inside of it, then go to recreator and copy all of the values of the zombie recreator script. I will do copy components. Then I will go back to my default character and go to recreator. I will left click here and then click paste component as new. It will create a new recreator script. Then we will right click on body parts, copy, and then paste it here. We will click the visual object, it will highlight it here, and then we will slide it over here. Then the slippery material, we will have to replace it ourselves. Then right here it says that the object is missing, so let's take the visual object and slide it here. Then we will click on no function, go to player visual, and then click set targets. At this point you should probably look for rig creator, then double click on it. Then you will locate the reset colliders function and add this line of code that you will find into the description. Then the project will recompile, and then when you go to rig creator on your default character, you should be able to left click here and click generate rig. By default the colliders that you will see will be invisible and you don't really want that. So let's click on the collider, double click on mdebug, then go here, and then we will, in the list we will find unlit, then color, and then I picked a bright color that is very easy to see. So to get started making an item, I'm going to take an item instance that exists already in the game. So I'm going to take this artifact prefab, which is a Shorby, and I'm going to duplicate it into a folder that I created. So here we have a duplicate of the Shorby artifact. So one of the requirements of DB's Content API is that the prefab is set in a certain way, and we will have to remove everything except the item instance. So let's remove all of that. Also, these are some things that we don't really care about. These are specific to this item. I don't really know what it does, so I'm just going to delete it. And so yeah, that's essentially it. We have prepared a prefab to be registered by DB's Content API into the shop. So we can just create an asset bundle that I will call example mod. And actually I'm going to remove the Shorby texture because we don't really care about that. Instead I'm going to replace it with a basic cube. So I'm going to create a 3D object, cube. So make sure the mesh and colliders are coherent in relationship to the hand size, because that's actually how it will look into the game compared to the hand size. So yeah, this is going to be a relatively small cube. Also make sure that your mesh or that you add child objects that carry a collider. If you don't have any collider, then the item will just phase through the world. Okay, so now we have created a test item. For the second step, let's make a map. So I'm going to create a scene. Yeah, here, let's go to scene. I'm going to name it test scene. Actually, something that I noticed that seems to be very important is that you create a separate asset bundle for the scenes. And so I'm going to call it example scene. because if you were to put the scene inside the same asset bundle as the test item, everything seems to break. I have absolutely no idea why it does that. But you know, sometimes software engineering is more art than science, so just trust me on this one. So we're going to enter the scene. We're going to get rid of the directional light and the camera because we don't actually need that. So this is the map prefabs that you will need in order to make maps. I'm going to put them into the SDK, and what you will do when you download the SDK and have everything set up is that you will go here, copy this folder, then go into the folder that you're developing in and paste it. So now we have the map prefabs folder. And so look, now you have all of these prefabs because you need to place all of those prefabs on the map for it to function. And now what we will do to put everything together is actually pretty simple. So we are going to create a cube. And so I'm going to set it at the 0 coordinates, and I'm going to scale it like 200 in each direction, except Y actually. And so that's going to create a big plane for the map to be. And so this is going to be our test map. What you need to do then is place this at the 0 coordinates. I actually have no idea what that is, but let's trust Riso on this one. Then you can put this one as well. You will put it at the 0 coordinates. No, not that it really matters, but yeah. And so these are the multipliers. This controls a multiplier for the number of artifacts that will spawn in the map. This is the multiplier for the tools, and this is the multiplier for the monsters. Now I will also add the ambience holder. Again, honestly, I have no idea what that is. Probably to add custom ambience into the game. And so now, this is very critical. The maps will not work if you don't place these. You will add some diving bells spawn locations, and the location will be picked randomly when you spawn. So yeah, I'm just gonna put a few of these. And then these are the patrol points. So basically in content warning, a patrol point, I mean the name is pretty self-explanatory. The mobs will try to go from one patrol point to the other, and actually patrol points also control where the mob spawns. I think they will spawn at the location of a patrol point, and so I will just place a few of these. And actually what Riso did is that these patrol points are interconnected automatically by the API code. And so yeah, basically I think we are done making the test map. I'm just gonna make sure the floor has a collider. Yes, it does. And okay, I think we're good with the map. Before we move on from maps, there is one thing that I forgot, and it's to adjust the navigation mesh. So what the nav mesh is, it allows the navigation agents, so mobs, to understand where they can go and where they can navigate, so that they don't fall inside a hole or they don't hit walls or something. And there are several steps that we need to take in order to make that work. We will select the floor and all of the objects that are part of the terrain, and make sure to adjust the layer and set it to terrain. If you don't do that, then the navigation mesh will not generate correctly. Then we will go to scenes and we will select the mine scene. And let's go to level, nav mesh, and copy that object. We will paste the nav mesh object here. And now what we need to do is bake the nav mesh. So you click on nav mesh and you click bake, and you click on nav mesh wide and you click bake. And so there is a very high probability that you will not get this setup. Maybe you will see that this is a missing script, or you will see some compile errors. Fixing this is a bit difficult, but I know that the setup that I have right now has certain properties. If we go into the plugins folder here, you will see that I have the Unity AI Navigation DLL, and that I also have inside of my package manager, I have the AI Navigation package installed. So I have both. If you have any issues with the NavMesh plugins, then please let me know and we will try to troubleshoot it together, and I will be able to add it to the description for others. And now we're going to create a mob. So creating a mob is probably the most complicated thing in the whole game. But here I will try to explain everything to you and every part of the process. It is an extremely painful process, honestly. Things never work as intended. but I will give you all of the keys to understand everything and things that you should be aware of if you ever try to add a custom mob. And so it may not surprise you that the whole process begins in Blender. Yeah, hopefully I can download this and just use this. Okay, I'm gonna download it. So making advanced 3D models and rigs and animations is outside of the scope of this video, but I'm going to try to explain most of the useful stuff that you will need to make mobs. Okay, so actually I don't want to use the rig that was given by the 3D model. I'm gonna do it myself. So actually, so that the mob can work inside of the game, we need to make it so that the bones follow a certain naming convention. So now you see the names that your armature bones should follow. This is the hip, this is the torso, this is the leg R, no, leg L actually. You know, content warning modding is very difficult because if you miss anything that I'm telling you, then you may have cascading problems that will be extremely difficult to debug. And so right now, I know that we need to adjust the bone roll, because if the bone roll is incorrect, then this is going to create a lot of issues. I'm just going to add a cube so that you understand. But basically this bone, and all of the bones actually, can be rotated in a way that you will not see the difference. So for example, it would look like this. This is the bone roll. So I'm just going to select all of the bones and go on armature, and yeah, okay, I found it. Recalculate roll. And actually I think this is global plus Z axis. I don't even know honestly, but at least now the bone roll is standardized. All of the bones that are on a certain side, you will have to put L at the end. And you can even see it here, all of the bones are sided for the arm, elbows and legs. But that will be important to have this name right now, because we're going to select all of our bones and symmetrize it. And so what it does is it creates the bones on the other side, just to make our life a bit easier. So you see, when you make animations, you don't move all of the mesh faces individually. What you do is you create an armature, and then you can move the bones of that armature so that it moves the mesh with the armature. But right now, it's not going to do anything because the armature is disconnected from the mesh. And so what we need to do is go to object mode, select the mesh, and then the armature, and click Ctrl P, and we will select automatic weights. And then to see the weights of each bone, we're going to select the mesh, then the armature, no, actually the armature and then the mesh, and go to weight paint. And now you can see that these bones, if I click Alt and left click, I will see the influence that the bones have on each face. So here, if we were to make this movement manually without inverse kinematics, we would have to rotate both of these bones, so it would take us twice the time. And so knowing that it takes very little time to set up inverse kinematics if you are experienced with it, you should do it before you do any animation. I'll create idle, and I will click on this shield. It's very important that you click on this shield, because sometimes if you don't do that, you leave the project and you come back, you will literally lose animations that you took hours to make. So make sure you do it. So I created idle. I'm gonna create walk, click on the shield. I'm gonna create attack and click on the shield. Okay, so here is what we have. Before we move forward, please make sure that you have saved your Blender file and that you checked all of these fake user shields. It's very, very important. Don't make the same mistake as me. The idle animation, the walk cycle. Okay, so I took a few minutes to make the animation a bit better. It's still trash, but okay, so everything is looking perfect. There is one thing that we need to make that I discovered very recently, and it's to edit the UVs of the mesh. So if I understand correctly, the UV maps are how the 3D assets know how the textures will be applied to our 3D asset. And if we don't create the UV maps right now, it's not going to break anything, but our mob is going to look all wrong inside of the game. select A to select all of the faces of the mesh, then go to UV, then go to Unwrap and click Smart UV Project. Click Unwrap, and then all of the UVs will be made correctly. Now the good news is that our mob is ready for exporting into Unity, but there are some things that you will need to do first. So you're going to select everything using A, then you're going to do Ctrl A and apply all transforms. If you're like me and you're not a very good 3D modeler, it's possible that the topology of your mesh is going to be very weird. So here the topology is great, we only have quads everywhere, but you should know that it's possible to do very weird meshes with n-gons all over the place, like for example this. And what that does usually is it can create problems with the rendering inside of Unity, and so you will see some inverted or invisible faces. And so to fix all of that, if you have this sort of issue, you may want to select all of the faces in edit mode and input Ctrl T, which is basically going to triangulate all of your faces. And also you need to go into edit mode, select everything, and do Shift N, I believe. Yeah, and it's going to show recalculate normals. If you have invisible faces, you should definitely suspect that the normals are wrong or that your topology is messed up. And just know that you don't really need to think about the texture paint stuff. Usually in content warning, the textures are achieved by modifying the normals and applying the in-game monster material, which is, I think, the same for all of the monsters. So now, enough said, let's export our mob. We're going to export and select FBX. We're only going to select armature and mesh. Then we will change apply scalings to FBX all. We don't need to touch at the geometry tab. Let's go to armature and disable leaf bones because I don't know, I don't really think it's useful. It's going to add bones all over the place and I don't like it. If you see that your animations are very bad after exporting your FBX, then I think you should suspect that these parameters are set wrong. Oh yeah, I don't think we have any more things to worry about. Let's export the FBX. And now that we did that, we may go back into Unity. Let's get the Zomb prefab and let's paste it over here. Let's call the mob default character or something. Let's not forget to add it to our asset bundle in example mode. And we're going to go inside of the prefab. DB's content API, as we made it, expects a certain amount of things, and it does not expect other things. And so, for example, in the Zomb model, you should definitely get rid of the bot zombie thing. Go to visual and delete the zombie visual. Then we need to go to Recreator and okay, let's remove SFX as well. Let's remove the rig. Then let's go to Recreator and remove the monster animation values. This is going to be added by DB's content API. Okay, so now we don't have anything anymore, but it's because we're going to put our FBX in. So yeah, let's just slide our FBX into this. So you just have to drag and drop from the Windows desktop. So if you click on this, you can look at your animations a little bit to see if everything is going right. But the only thing we need to really be careful about is that you see the character should be facing in this direction, but it's facing the opposite way. But we have ways to fix it, so just don't worry about it. Just be aware that it's possible that in-game your character will be reversed if you do not take all the precautions necessary. Now what we can do is take the FBX and slide it into visual. I'm going to just go to prefab and unpack completely, which will allow us to modify the FBX. Also, there is something we need to worry about, is that here we need to create an empty object called rig and then put our FBX inside of it. Then to set up this mob, we're going to have to set up a lot of things. So the way that content warning works is that it takes your rig and some configuration for each bone, and then it will automatically create some colliders and some joints for each body part. And it will allow the Recreator script to create the typical content warning physics that we know. We are going to reset all of the Zomb body parts, and we're going to create the first element, which is the hip. So the hip is usually the bone with the most mass. I'm going to set this to 300. I don't think I'm going to put any collider on the hip. You should not put a joint on the hip also. This is the range of motion, and we don't really care about that because the hip bone is actually the root bone. So yeah, the hip is pretty basic. I'm going to create a second element, and it's going to be the torso. I'm going to set it to a very high mass, but not as big. Then for that we'll definitely need a joint because it's the torso and it should have a joint with the hip. I'm not going to change the range of motion for now. I definitely know that there is something wrong here about the default configuration. The spring multiplier should definitely not be 0. Okay, actually the zomb does have a range of motion on the hip. I'm not gonna really bother with it. I'm just going to copy the hip and copy it to our mob. So you can just right click on element 0 and then paste. It's going to copy all of the configuration. I'm going to do the same for the torso, but I'm just going to readjust it and set it to torso. I'm going to set this mass to 300, 150. So here we have also copied the zomb colliders. I'm going to remove the one on the hip, and I will keep the one on the torso, but I will standardize it. So I will put 0 everywhere, 0 on the rotation, and 1 on the scale. Then I'm going to right click on this and do generate rig. Then as you can see, we got some basic collider going. If you do this and you do not see generate rig, it's actually normal because that's something I have added myself to the rig creator script. So let me check real quick. Inside of the Unity editor, you should find the rig creator script, and I have modified it a bit. So yeah, as you can see, I added this in the reset colliders. I added this because if I don't do this, then I cannot generate the rig manually. I have no idea what was the actual workflow for the official content warning developers, but I mean it works like that, so let's keep doing that for now. So I will have to readjust the colliders a bit. I will scale it down, and unfortunately you will have to generate rig every time you want your changes to be reflected. Okay, so I'm happy with this collider. Now I will copy this element, I will create a new one, and I will paste it. Then I will set the body part to the head. I will add a sphere collider instead of capsule colliders. I will move it up a bit. So yeah, we have a collider on the head now. Actually, there is something that I want to say. It's very important that the colliders don't overlap, because if you do that, then I find that it will absolutely ruin your animations. I'm going to reduce the weight a bit. Actually, I'm going to reduce the head weight a bit too. I think that the body part weight will have an influence on how well the mob can navigate. So for example, I think the game tries to move the hip around to make the mob navigate. And if you attribute a weight that is too big on the legs or the foot, for example, then the foot may get caught inside of scenery and the map, and it will be unable to move. So if your mob has problem navigating, maybe you should suspect that. Now the next step is going to apply the animations. So the animator is a component from Unity to animate objects. And here we have kept the zombie animator, but of course this is not going to be correct. So let's just copy the zomb animator controller, and let's paste it in here. I'm going to call it default character animation controller. And so what an animation controller is, it's basically an animation state machine, and so it will hold the conditions of how the animations transition between each other. And how that works is an animation controller holds a number of parameters, like is the mob inhaling, is it grabbing something, is it attacking? And then depending on the state of these parameters, it's going to transition between different animations. And so in case you're wondering, all of these values are updated by the game itself. So it's the content warning vanilla code which is going to set all of these parameter values in the course of gameplay at runtime. But now what we want to do is get rid of all of these zomb animations. And as you can see, we can click on this little arrow and see all of the animations. We're going to duplicate them by using Ctrl D. And then we will take our animations and slide them over here. So this is the walk animation, so I need to make sure I'm sliding the walk animation. Let's do the same with idle. And then let's go to attack and change this to attack. I'm going to change the names a little bit. These are the state machine animation names. It doesn't really matter what the name is, but I'm still going to do it. I'm going to do the same with the animations themselves. And now that we did that, let's go back to Recreator and make sure that our animator is actually the one that we created. And so now, everything is set up correctly here, but the animations are still not going to be working. And we can convince ourselves of that by taking the Recreator object, which is the object that will be animated by the game. You can slide it here, and you can look at this and see that nothing is happening when you're playing the animation. And the reason for that is that animation clips are a very strict system where every animation is applied on a precise object, and it's expecting a precise object hierarchy. So for example, we are applying this animation to the Recreator object, but the first child that this animation is expecting is called armature. But actually it's rig and then test mob and then only then armature. So this is actually a problem, and I just clicked on a few objects here, and now actually Unity is detecting that the objects are missing. So the way that we fix this is by going here. Actually, let's make a backup first. We will copy all of them. Then we go to Explorer. Then we're going to open a terminal and type code dot. So this will open this whole folder inside of VSCode. Now we can see that every animation is actually readable and we can edit it. And what we are going to do is actually manually fix all of the wrong paths. So as I said, it's expecting armature as the first child, but it's actually deeper in the hierarchy. So we're going to do Ctrl F and look for armature. So we can see that we have 42 paths that are trying to be resolved, and what we need to change that to is rig slash test mob, I believe, and then armature. And that's because this is the actual path here. So rig, test mob, armature. And so we are modifying the main character attack. So let's do a replace all. And then what's going to happen is if I click on the attack animation, then everything should be fixed. And now you can see that the animation is correctly playing. You're going to have to do this for all of the animations. Let's do the same with the idle animation. So the idle animation is working. And the work animation as well. So you can also see all of the animation transitions by clicking on the arrows. And actually what I've realized after some time is that what you see inside of Unity is not what will happen in game. Because of how the physics works, the animations are applied to animation targets and not the player model itself. So even though you see snapping here, inside of the game, what's going to happen is just that the animation targets are going to move and the mob will try to quickly snap onto this new state. I think everything is good here. So if you skipped forward the part where we created an item, a map, and a mob, then you have missed the part where we assigned all of them to an asset bundle. And so I will show you how. To do that, you click on the mob, for example, and you will click on this list. You will go all of the way down, and you will click on new. And so the mob and the item should be in the asset bundle called example mod, written like this. And the scene should be in an asset bundle called example scene. You can change the names of the asset bundle inside of the code, but I recommend that you don't do it for now. You can do it later if you want. Okay, so now that we have done everything that we need to do on the Unity side, we're going to finalize the IDE setup. So I'm going to build the asset bundles. This will be useful for later. And then we will have to adjust all of these files that start with example. Okay, so I need to talk to you about PS1 script for a few seconds. In Windows, usually to execute scripts, you're going to have either BAT files or PS1 files. And the PS1 scripts offer some more advanced functionality. But unfortunately, the first time you will try to run them, you're going to run into an issue where it's going to say that you have to change your execution policy or something. And to fix that problem, you have two solutions. And you can change your global configuration so that you can execute any PS1 script that you want. And then the other more secure solution is that you paste this command and then you append the script that you're trying to execute, like this. If you want to still use the more secure solution but still have some degree of convenience, then you can do Ctrl R in the terminal and look for update.ps1. and it's going to do a backward search into your commands, and you're going to find it again. So yeah, you can use the solution that you want. I'm going to give you both commands in the description, and then you can choose for yourself. So the first step is to modify the DB's Content API installation path, and you have done that in the previous steps. You had to subscribe to it on the workshop and then update the DLL folder. And so after you have done that, you should rename the file to directory.build.props and remove the example prefix. At this point, the project should compile correctly, and so you should do .NET build and that .NET build -c release. So everything should compile correctly, and then you should go to bin, debug, and find the example mod.dll. You will copy the path, and then paste it inside of debug DLL path, and then you will go to the release folder and do the exact same thing. So copy the path, and paste it inside of release DLL path. Then let's go back to the Unity editor and open the asset bundles folder like this. We'll go inside the folder and copy this path, and then you will modify the paths like this. So now we replace the DLL directories and the asset bundle directories, and the last step is to publish our mod and update the installation path. And so the first step to do that is to download SteamCMD and to install it. And then I will copy the path of the folder in which the SteamCMD exe file is. I will paste it like this. And then I have to modify the Steam username here so that it's my username. And so that's the username that you use when you connect, which is not always the same thing as your display name. So be careful about that. And so I just did all of that, and so I should rename this file and remove the example.prefix. Then inside of the Steam build folder in the SDK, you will find the mod.vdf file. You will copy the path of this icon and copy it here in the preview file field. And then you will copy the path of the build folder, which is this one. Inside of this folder, there is a single empty file. And at that point, we should be able to publish our mod. And so let's try it right now. I'm going to execute the publish or update the mod.ps1 script that you updated before. And for some reason I'm getting this infinite dots problem, so I'm going to close the terminal and open a new one. And if I enter the command once again, then it should work. Okay, my mod has been uploaded correctly. I'm going to go in the Steam workshop and subscribe to my own mod. So to find the list of your mods, you need to go to Community, Workshop, My Workshop Files, and then you will find your own mod. Now you're going to subscribe to it. Then you will go to Collections, Properties of Content Warning, Install Files, go to Steam Apps, Workshop, Content Warning. And so if you have subscribed to your mod correctly, then you should find a folder in which you will find this. That's the empty file from before, and so that's the installation path of our mod. So I will copy this path, and then I will put it inside of the workshop mod folder from config.json. And so, okay, all of the paths are set correctly now. We just have a problem, and we have to replace all of the backslashes to slashes. To do that, you can type Ctrl F, then type backslash, and then put slash in the replacement. Then I'm going to do replace all. And so, okay, that fixed everything. And now at that point, I can rename EXAMPLE.config.json to config.json. And so now let's do two things. We're gonna type prepare final build.ps1, and we should not get any errors. The project will compile, and also in the build folder we should have one DLL and two asset bundles. So that's the DLL of our mod with the whole source code, and that's the two asset bundles, one with the items and the mob, and the other with the map. If that's not the case, then maybe you have some problems with your paths here. And what update.ps1 does is it puts the DLL and the asset bundle inside of your mod's installation path. And so that updates the mod locally only. Okay, so let's go through all of it one more time. You do prepare final build to put all of the DLLs inside of the build folder. Then you can type publish or update the mod.ps1 in order to update your mod or to publish it for the first time. every time that you modify something in your asset bundles, you should click on Build Asset Bundles. And then every time you modify the code and to put the new asset bundles inside of your in your local mod folder, then you type update.ps1 and it will update everything locally only. And that's how you use this SDK. Also at that point you should probably go to myplugininfo.cs and change all of these parameters. So you should change plugin.gyd so that it's something that's unique to your mod. Then modify your plugin name and also the plugin version when you update your mod. Also, this is the vanilla compatible value. You should never change it because adding mobs, maps, and items will never be vanilla compatible. And so after you run update.ps1 for the first time and you verify that the files are correctly changing inside of your mod's installation folder, it means that you can launch the game and then the mod will start. So you should look at all of the SDK's mod, but I'm going to explain to you quickly what all of it does. It goes inside of the asset bundles and gets the map and the mob and item. It registers all of them using DB's content API. And also in the patches folder, I added an example harmony patch that makes the players jump higher. So I will explain later what a harmony patch is, and you will have to understand this, it's very important. And even though you did not create any of this code or any of the prefabs inside of Unity, the key difference between just installing a mod from the workshop is that now you own the whole process. So just a quick note, after you subscribe to your own mod and that you're subscribed to DB's content API, it's very important that you go to content warning, properties, then go to the workshop settings, and you need to verify that DB's content API is above your example mod that you just installed. And you can rearrange that using the arrows. I'm going to tell you more about that later. So now let's test everything and make sure that we did not work for nothing. Everything is set up correctly, we build the asset bundles, then we can run the update.ps1 script. Then if I go in my mods installation folder over here, then same thing, everything is updated, so when I launch the game, everything will be up to date. All of the tools that we need are correctly stored. We have the console view so that we can debug effectively. So just so you know, when you download the SDK and you get it to compile and play it in game, this is exactly what you will see when you're in game. And you can use that as a starting point to make your own items, maps and mobs. So yeah, we have a basic cube here. And now we are onto our flat map with our little friends. Oh my god! I just want to inform you that I modified the SDK a bit. So I added a few objects from the game assets onto the map. And I also added some stairs because why not? If you want to make more complex maps, you will probably need to use Pro Builder and make some assets instead of Blender. And you can also use assets from the Unity Asset Store instead of modeling everything yourself. And also because I don't want you to just have a purposeless cube inside of the SDK, I actually added a gun that works for self-defense. So now that everything is set up, I'm going to bring up a few technicalities on content warning modding. So the most important thing that you should learn to mod the game is Unity. You may have to learn some other skills like 3D modeling in Blender, I definitely did that. But if you know the basics about Unity programming, then you may be able to do some very interesting stuff. This is probably the most important things to understand about content warning modding, so I'm going to go through all of those things. So this file is the entry point of the mod. All of those lines will be executed when the mod loads. HarmonyLib is extremely important to mod the game correctly also. What HarmonyLib does is it allows you to patch in-game methods, and so for example, here this code will be executed when the mod loads, right? But for example, if I look at these lines of code of the DB's content API that we made, this code will run at another timing than mod loading. It will load when the game runs this round spawner, that's the class name, and start, that's the method name. And so once this method executes in the vanilla game, this code will run, and it will run before the method is executed. So there are two ways to hook into the game. You can use a prefix and a postfix. A prefix is a way to execute code before a method is executed, and you will be able to prevent the original method from executing by doing that. The other way to hook into the game is by using a harmony postfix. A postfix executes after the original method is executed, and that will allow you to hook at this timing and also to modify the return value of the function. So to give you a quick example, this is the work that Riso did for the Maps API. We're running this function and we're actually modifying the results that this vanilla method returns. And so that allows us to modify the vanilla game behavior. So when you mod the game for content warning, your code will be structured around three things. First thing is harmony lib patches that we just saw. The second thing is creating mono behaviors and attaching them to vanilla game objects or your modded game objects. What a mono behavior is a script that you attach to a game object, and that will allow you to run code at certain points of the game object's lifecycle. For example, this code is run when the object is spawned, and this method, the update method, will be run on every frame of the object's lifetime. So yeah, harmony lib patches, mono behaviors that you will attach to game objects, and usually you will do that inside of harmony lib patches. And then the third thing that your programs will be structured around is probably the most complicated thing, honestly, and it's synchronization code. So the game uses a library called Photon, and what Photon allows you to do is to synchronize game objects and to trigger code execution on all clients. So for example, the game's tourist dog mob uses an RPC, which is code execution synchronized on all clients, to spawn the laser projectile. Also, if you want to understand networking, you might want to look at these classes, monobehavior pun callbacks. So pun is related to Photon, and basically what that does is this is a mono behavior, but with some added utilities to synchronize the data more easily in a way that you don't have to do everything manually. Honestly, I don't understand everything about this. I am very ignorant of networking in Unity. So another detail that is extremely important that you understand is the build pipeline, how to update your mod, how everything can compile correctly. So I'm going to try to explain all of this to you because you will find that this knowledge is very valuable. So I'm going to go through all of the files that implicate the build process and the update process. So here we define the installation path of the content warning game, and that will allow us to find all of the DLLs that the game uses. And essentially what that does is it allows us to use all of the classes that the game uses. So if everything is set up correctly, my mod will understand what the player class is. So that's a class that the developers defined, and it will also be able to understand what animation curve is, which is something that the Unity engine defined. And so a very important thing to understand is that all of this is the build time dependencies. Basically, your code lives in two different situations. It lives in the build phase and in the execution phase. So when we are developing and building our mod, we are obviously in the build phase. And at this point, we will just have to tell the C# compiler that all of these DLLs exist and that our program can expect all of these DLLs to be loaded at the time that our program executes. And you need to understand that this assumption may or may not be true. So for example, we have a problem about DB's Content API. It's that the mod loading order may be inconsistent. So when this mod will load, it will make the assumption that DB's Content API is loaded, but that may not be the case because look at this. In the workshop, you can see that this is the list of mods that I have installed. And actually there is a loading order that you can define yourself. Also, just a quick note, because I think this will make your life a lot easier, is I think you should go to your Unity project and go to, okay, so in the assembly C# folder, you will have all of the in-game scripts. And so this is absolutely fundamental to have this inside of your IDE. So I'm just going to copy that folder. I'm going to paste it here. Then I'm going to rename it to decomp. And what that will allow you to do essentially is to imagine you want to understand more about the player.cs file. then you can easily do that by doing Ctrl+P and then looking for player.cs. So here it doesn't work because I know I have to change a certain setting. So I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to look for git ignore. And so yeah, I think this is the parameter that you need to disable, use ignore files. So I'm going to remove that. And then when I look for player.cs, it will correctly find it. And so you can easily look at in-game code, which is fundamental to understand how the game works, and especially to know which methods you're going to patch. So for example, in this player.cs file, you can see that the class is named player, and that there is a method called hanging upside down. And by looking at how it works, and its name, etc., then you will be able to very quickly make harmony patches that will allow you to modify the behavior of this. So if you want to alter a mechanic in the game, then having all of these files handy will help you a lot. There's something that I want to talk to you about, and it's Unity GUIDs. As you can see right now, this is the character that you will find in the SDK, and it's assigned the M-monster material, which most of the monsters use. What you need to know is that this prefabricated object that we're going to put into an asset bundle and then load into the game, it will try to carry this M-monster material. If you do that and you do not replace the material at runtime, then your game will crash. So all of these materials and shaders and game objects and game scripts, they are all uniquely identified by an ID, which is called a GUID, and it's stored into the .meta file of each of these objects. And the AssetRipper was able to extract some of those GUIDs and some not. And that has some implications on what you will have to do when you mod the game. So right now look at this object. Let's go into rig creator and look at the rig creator script. I have allowed myself to use the rig creator script inside of the prefab, and that is because AssetRipper was actually able to extract the GUID of the rig creator script. When we load this prefab into the game, the rig creator script is actually going to be recognized by the game, and it will consider that this script is the one that is already loaded into its memory, and not some script that we have created and then assigned to this object. So to the game, this entity is one and the same. That also has a few implications. So for example, we cannot modify the script and the logic and expect it to work inside of the game. When this prefab loads, it's going to use the rig creator script from the game itself. But what you need to know is that the shaders and the materials are completely broken. And so I have assigned here this M-monster material to my mob. But this material is not going to work inside of the game. I will have to replace it at runtime. If I were to forget to replace this material, then when I load the prefab into the game, it will just crash my game. So as you can see here, for every prefab that I'm loading into the game, I'm making sure to replace all of the materials of all the mesh renderers. And now is almost the time to part ways, and before we do that, I will give you some keys of things that you need to understand and do so that you become more independent in the development of your mods. You should definitely look at all of the source code of the SDK, because it will teach you how to create a basic behavior for mobs and items. So let's have a quick look. The registration of the map is very easy, probably the simplest, and the configuration of the mob is a bit more complex. You should definitely look at the DB's content API that I will put in the description. I added some basic mob behavior, which is the chaser component. It's probably the most common way that the game uses to make the mob chase players. I also added the attack melee component, and we use the attack animation for it. Most of the item behavior is done inside of the code, and so you should look at this code. You should look at the... maybe you can look at the Go Ball item. You should become comfortable at looking the game source code and the code of other people's mods. You will notice that you do not have to use any harmony patches for the registration of maps, mobs and items, and that's because DB's content API does all of that for you. If you got all of this to work, you can compile the project and run your own mods, register your maps, mobs and items. Then congratulations, you have finished this tutorial and you now have all the keys to be completely independent in your content warning modding. I hope that this video was helpful to you. You should and you need to connect with the modding community because you will probably not be able to understand everything on your own. Mentoring can get you much further and much faster. So yeah, see you there, my friend.